Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we're focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott DeLucio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott DeLucio, and today my guest is Josh Thompson. He's a former Army Air Defense Artillery captain whose journey is a powerful testament to resilience, perseverance, and the transformative power of inner strength. His story is one of overcoming adversity, navigating through dark times, and emerging stronger on the other side. From battling toxic work environments and chronic health issues to finding healing and personal breakthroughs, Josh's journey is both inspiring and uplifting. And we'll get into his experiences, the challenges that he faced, and the lessons learned in just a minute. But first, I want to welcome you to the show, Josh. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were talking before we started recording here a little bit, about a little bit about each other and things like that. But I'd love to have you, in your own words, maybe start by telling us about some of the struggles that you experienced. I kind of mentioned a little bit in the intro, some of the struggles that you experienced during your time in the Army, and maybe some of the impact that they had on your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being.
Sure. I'll start by walking through the beginning of sort of that sequence of struggles for context.
Sure.
And I'll lead off by saying that the Air Defense Artillery, or ADA, has been the most deployed and the forward deployed branch of the Army for the better part of a decade now, which covers most of my time in the service. But my sequence of struggles goes well beyond dealing with a crazy op tempo. I did maintain, or was forced to maintain, a rather unhealthy level of stress for a number of years, especially in the latter part of my service. Kind of started when I had just left the fast-paced environment of the 82nd Airborne Division, where I had just barely finished standing up a Stinger missile program. I transferred to a Patriot Air Defense unit that had just received a no-notice deployment order. And I went to that unit to take command, which is already stressful enough. But I deployed with that unit. We got on ground in the desert, and I started my inventories as soon as the equipment had begun coming off the ship. Not a standard change of command inventory. I took command of the most stressful unit of the battalion, the HHB, but I was up for it. What I was not up for was the toxicity that ensued among the leadership of the battalion and higher echelons that I had to deal with throughout my command. And so during that deployment, we kind of went to war for a couple of weeks. It was during the period when we unalived General Soleimani in Iraq, and there were heightened tensions that eventually led to the Iranian missile strikes that impacted Erbil and al-Assad. Well, for the entire deployment up to then, we didn't have an end date for that deployment because, it wasn't a patch chart deployment. It was a no-notice deployment. So we finally had a unit come relieve us after some time, and we did a left seat, right seat with them. They took the driver's seat, and we had about 90% of our equipment at the port ready to ship back to the States when the unit that replaced us, or so we thought, was ordered to go to Iraq, to the locations that the Iranian missiles strikes impacted. And we were ordered to reassume our mission, the mission that we had just handed over. So morale and mental health was absolutely crushed when we had to drive all of our equipment back from the port to continue the mission we had already handed over. And shortly after that, COVID hit, and then that's when things really got ridiculous. All the amenities on the installation shut down, and the collective mental health and morale just started spiraling downhill even more, including mine. And COVID prevented a lot of movement into and out of theater, which only added to the fog and the question of when are we going to be going home? Well, we eventually did a few months later, even though the unit that came in to replace us then, we didn't fully trust them. Are you really going to be taking over until We didn't believe it until we were on the plane, at that point. But
Fool me
uh,
once, shame on me kind of thing, like that kind of situation, right?
exactly, I was like, we don't trust you to actually replace this, but they did. So,
Yeah,
um, but anyway, we redeployed and we still had COVID to deal with, and I still had the most toxic chain of command I had ever experienced in my career to deal with. So just you can just see the stressors, starting to add up here.
sure.
Um, and this is really where we start getting into the mental health part of it. Um, that toxic work environment was so bad that toward the end I had to walk out of a battalion meeting and I drove straight to the behavioral health clinic. Um, and my battalion commander found out later that day where I went, and in my next closed door conversation with him, uh, he actually made fun of me for having to go to behavioral health.
Hmm,
And I was absolutely flabbergasted at that. Um, and I thought it over. I confided in some people, and just that was a first for me. So after giving it a lot of thought, I ended up filing an IG complaint. Um, and then at that point, it was like 18 months into my command, and I had had enough. Um, and although I don't believe that the onset of my physical conditions that we'll be talking about were caused by this stress from dealing with all the above, it certainly didn't help. It only added to that sort of, fight or flight reflex of, just anxiety and stress that I experienced once my symptoms started, popping up. But basically, I PCS from that unit and I settled into my new unit at JBLM. And then I really enjoyed it for about a month uh, because that's whenever my physical symptoms started appearing that eventually led to my med board. I started getting new symptoms every week, and I found myself in so much unexplained pain and discomfort that I frequented the emergency room. I was going sometimes multiple times a week because I literally thought I was going to die. I was getting heart palpitations. I thought I was having heart attacks. I had uh, a panic attack that I confused for a heart attack. And uh, but so I started going to the doctor just as often as I'll go to work. Um, and for months, I had no diagnosis.
mhm.
Um, and the first diagnosis I did receive was actually a misdiagnosis, and I didn't know that until later on. Um, whenever the medication was making things worse instead of better.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, been there. Yeah.
so yeah, so basically, on top of the stress that I had experienced from the previous unit, I had developed anxiety from my unexplained symptoms that were causing me so much pain, discomfort, and unexplained changes to my body and diet. Um, for a few years, I experienced, just stressor on top of stressor, and as soon as I thought I was moving past it all toward relief, boom, medical problems.
Mhm.
I ended up enduring those for over a year and a half before I got what I considered to be my main diagnosis, and then treatment after that. Um,
S
Go ahead.
so yeah, so I wanna take a step back a little bit here. So you were talking about how your unit was, basically told, "Hey, you guys are going home. You got, a replacement unit here," right? And then basically pull all the stuff off the ships and bring it right back because you're not going anywhere. Um, and then, like you said, COVID struck, and then you're really not going anywhere because nobody was going anywhere at that point. Um, and then all the facilities on the base, they all shut down. Um, Talk about a complete mind game with the folks that are involved in this. Like I know I've been in situation. I think most people who've been in the military have been in a situation where plans have changed. Let's just call it that, right? where hey, you're told you're doing X and you end up doing Y, and you're all planned and ready to go for X, and Y happens, and and then you got to totally shift gears. Um, I think we can understand that, but it's a totally different game when it's, hey, you're going to get to go home and you're going to get to go see your families and you're going to get to go, celebrate birthdays and, anniversaries and all those things that you might have missed while you were away. You're going to get to go do those things. Oh, but hey, guess what? No, you're actually not. And you're going to stay here for an undetermined amount of time. Uh, continuing to do the job that you had been doing, that messes with you, right? That messes with your mind. Uh, and then having toxic leadership on top of it, who maybe doesn't even recognize the the effects that that might have on some of the soldiers who are involved in that. That's got to make just amplify things tenfold, right? That where you're now dealing with people who maybe they don't even care. I don't know. I wasn't there, but maybe they just don't even care that it's affecting people. It's just like, hey, this is your job. Just go do it. Um, whereas someone with maybe better leadership would be like, okay, let's figure out how to at least soften the blow here. Let's try to make this better in some way. But it doesn't seem like that was a case in your situation, right? And um, so that I gotta imagine not only you, but a lot of the soldiers that you were with were probably experiencing similar stress and anxiety and
Absolutely.
all of the above, right? Like they were probably not doing too good either, right? And so you being kind of in charge of these guys, now you got a whole bag full of people who are not really doing all that great, and you're not doing all that great. How do you make that work? Like that's got to be a challenge, right?
Yeah, and I'll kind of be talking about how me trying to make that work affected me even more.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you, like, it certainly did affect the mental health of that unit. As a matter of fact, I, in that time, in about a year span, we had 2 suicides in that one battalion. To put it in context, the year prior to that deployment, 2018, the entire 82nd Airborne Division, which is about 36 battalions, had 4 suicides, which is still four too many.
sure.
But I mean, 30 across 36 battalions, four had suicide. The next year, with the battalion that I was at, the one I deployed with, 2 suicides just in one battalion, and that kind of tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, 4 is too many, 1 is too many. It doesn't matter the number, any is too many.
Mhm.
But when you're boiling it down to a smaller group, 1/36th of the, division, um, yeah, 2 in a year, that's a lot. That's not a good thing, and that stress and the struggles, that everybody was dealing with, that had to have, uh, been at least a contributing factor. I can't say I don't know these people, I don't know their personal situations. It could have been way other family issues. There could have been other mitigating or other factors dealing with these situations. But I got to imagine the stresses that they went through, that you went through, also played a part to some extent, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so, so you talked about the toxic work environment, the leadership, um, and eventually getting medically separated from the army. um how did you personally deal with these challenges, in addition to having to lead all of these troops with your own issues going on, but then eventually getting medically retired? What were some of the things that you did to kind of cope with this and um, get through these difficult times?
Well, like I mentioned, I kind of realized this too late, but I realized I needed help. Like I
Yeah,
needed to talk to someone about the stress that I was experiencing, and like I said, I I had enough of the BS during one meeting. I finished briefing what I had to brief, and I walked out, went straight to my car, drove straight to mental health or behavioral health on post. So that was, I guess, the first thing um, that I did to sort of you know, rectify the issue with my own self. But the lowest, darkest time of my life was when it was the time between the onset of my symptoms to the time that I received my main diagnosis and began getting treatment for it. Um, and that was the lowest, darkest period for me, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you name it. Um, and it's as if I had entered a pitch black tunnel and had no idea how far I had to go into the tunnel before I would see the light and reemerge on the other side. But I kept faith that everything I was going through was for a reason.
Mhm.
And even though that reason wasn't apparent to me yet, but I had I had to have faith that I would eventually see a light at the end of the tunnel and that I would eventually emerge, from that tunnel and into the light. So although I probably didn't, always show it, I kept my faith uh, in my spirit as I navigated that period. And I already spoke to you briefly on how I navigated the toxic work environment. First I endured it, and then I fought it, and then I left it. Um, but for the chronic health issues, the most difficult part was just getting an accurate diagnosis. Once I had an accurate diagnosis, I knew I could start being treated for the condition. But if there was no diagnosis, there was no treatment
Right.
or mistreatment.
Sure.
And that did happen.
Yeah.
It actually made it a little worse.
Even a misdiagnosis is, in some cases, I can't say all cases, but in some cases, it could actually be better than no diagnosis, because at least you can try something and realize, hey, that didn't work. Like this might actually be making things worse. Okay, so don't do that. Now let's go figure out
That's
what
true.
else it is. And I'm not saying a misdiagnosis like, hey, go out there and try to get a misdiagnosis. Like that's a good thing. It's not a good thing, right? But it's um, you know, it's it's trying something and trying
Yes.
to get in the right direction, right? I had a situation where I was having like breathing issues, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, you're having anxiety." Like the only thing I'm anxious about is the fact that I can't breathe right now, and like that's the issue I'm having. Turned out it was a symptom of heartburn that I was having, or like acid reflux, or that type of thing. I needed like an antacid, not anti-anxiety medication, which is what I was prescribed actually. So like I realized like that ain't it, so like, but in similar situation, you find out like, okay, no, that's not the right diagnosis. Let's go figure something else out.
Yeah, and that actually kind of makes sense. I mean, I'm no doctor, but going through everything I went through, I understand that the gut is highly related to anxiety. So if you
Yeah.
experience one, it could be the other, and vice versa. So, um, but yeah, you're right. It's just the if you get a misdiagnosis and you try something and it doesn't work, well, so you have an answer like that's not it, but
Yeah.
it depends on the medication. Some medications could do more damage than others if they put
Sure.
you on one of those medications. But um, once I so basically I had to start self-advocating for myself, and I did so for months and months and just kept on pushing. And I could tell when a doctor was BSing me. I would just go back until they finally took me serious. Or when that didn't work, I would just go see another doctor. And
Mhm.
I actually ended up seeing about uh, a dozen different primaries throughout the whole process, and about just as many specialty doctors, if not more. And as you know, in the military health system, that's actually a challenge to do.
It is.
Um,
That
you're usually
number
stuck with that
seemed
one PA.
yeah, that number seemed abnormally high to me. Like, trying to switch any doctor is like, pulling teeth. So
Yep. Yeah, that's just how like determined I was. I mean, that's you really, um, yeah, you really. No one's gonna look out for you like you look out for you. So
right.
you really have to push. Um, and I was not satisfied not having an answer because it was just out of the blue. Um, and it's just I got very annoyed whenever I'd be sitting down with the doctor who was just dismissive. Like, no, I need you to care about this.
Yeah.
And what I learned was, you can have the smartest, most highly qualified and educated doctor. Uh, I really don't care. Like, I just need for the primaries. Like, I'd rather a newly graduated nurse practitioner, who really cares over the smartest doctor in the world. Because those primaries are the gateways to, the specialty clinics. And that's really where you're going to get your diagnosis is the specialty clinics. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And being your own advocate is super important too, because like you said, sometimes these doctors or nurse practitioners or whoever uh, you happen to have as a primary, um, they have loads of patients, and sometimes they have 10, 15 minutes with you that they see, and that's all they see. And if you're not out there advocating for yourself and saying, "Hey, I need X, Y, and Z. This is what I need." They may miss something, and it I think it's just an issue with the medical system that we have, where we should have, more time with the doctors and everything, but realistically we
Absolutely.
don't, so you kind of have to do your own research. And I joke around with my wife. It's like we got to kind of play Dr. Google sometimes and like look up your symptoms and figure it out, and then you can have an intelligent conversation with the doctor, about what's going on, and say, "Hey, I think it could be X, Y, and Z because I have these symptoms, and this is what I'm experiencing." But if you just go in there and say, "This hurts," or "I can't do this because whatever," um, they don't know. You got to give them a little more information, I guess, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. And as far as coping mechanisms on the mental health side, I enrolled in. So I went to behavioral health as a walk in. Like I mentioned it at Bragg when I was still in command. But after a PCS and I started dealing with all the anxiety from not knowing what's wrong with me physically, I enrolled again in behavioral health at JBLM. And I actually had a really great behavioral health social worker who saw me for nearly 2 years, almost right up to my med board, where I guess the finalization of my med board.
Mhm.
And uh, as a result of all the stress that I experienced over the previous few years, he ended up diagnosing me with generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. And at which point he offered me two options. He could speak to my primary doctor about prescribing me some medication for it, or I could try doing cognitive behavioral therapy. And I was already on too many meds in my mind, so I opted for the cognitive behavioral therapy, which actually really helped me. It helped me become more mindful, and I started being able to catch my anxious or negative thoughts whenever I would have them. And it's like once you have that level of awareness, that's when you can really start to control your thoughts much better. You can prevent the anxiety from happening, or catch it as it's happening and mitigate the effect of it. So on the mental health side, I'll say like just practicing mindfulness, also breathing techniques, uh, really help with the anxiety. As a matter of fact, my social worker I was seeing, he did a test. He put an oximeter on my finger, and we did a 10-minute breathing exercise. And he watched. We did it together, but he watched the oximeter, and basically my my heart rate dropped by 10 beats per minute by the time we were done with the exercise. So it breathing techniques really help. It actually, you can actually see the effects of it. You know, uh, quantitatively.
Yeah, and I think that's actually really good that they did that for you, because I think one of the things that a lot of guys, uh, especially guys, I'm using this word as the guys, like the men who are out there who are like, this is it's not going to work for me or whatever. They need to see the hard evidence. Like, how does this work? How does this help? And when you see the numbers on the screen of this thing, showing the changes that are occurring as you're doing it in kind of real time, you're getting that feedback, and it's like, okay, well, all right, well, maybe this does work. Um, but without that, you may just be like, I tried it, it doesn't work, but it might have actually been working. You just didn't realize it. And you maybe just need to give it a little more time in order for it to, actually kick in. Cause it's not like you, pop an Advil or something like that, and it starts working right away, and you start, your headache goes away, or what, whatever it is. It's something that you kind of have to build up over time, right?
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's important, I think, for providers, especially if you guys are listening to this, like, let it be known, like, let people know how it's working, and show them, using tools like what you just mentioned, and use those things to just show, hey, this does work. But I think another important piece of it, though, is something that you mentioned earlier, is just having the right attitude going into it. Because you were saying, like, you were going through pretty much the darkest time that you were going through, but you recognize that everything happens for a reason, and you had faith that you'll come out on the other side of this, in a better place, and that I think is really important. Even if you can't understand why is this happening now? Why is this happening to me? Why the whole why does bad things happen to good people kind of mentality. Just knowing that it happens for a reason and being okay with that being the reason, and not necessarily knowing what it is that's causing it. You just know there is a reason, and be okay with that being it for the reason. It's a hard thing to do sometimes, but I think that could be a good first step for people who are in that similar situation, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Probably makes going into any sort of therapy that you might be considering a little bit easier, because you have that good attitude going into it.
Yeah. I mean, I plan on talking about mindset. Um, and, mindset really can make a big difference. Mindset drives your thoughts, which drive your feelings, which drives your actions, your habits. And so it really can change your life,
Sure.
just by having, a good attitude and mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a I think a good, kind of segue right there is, talking about the mindset and how it interacts with all of the things, like you said, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, your habits, all of those things are all interconnected, in one way or another. And with a poor mindset, you're going to end up having poor, attitude, poor behaviors, poor, uh, habits, and everything else along the way. So, yeah, I'd love to, kind of chat a little bit about the mindset piece of things, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So so it was post surgery. So basically after I received my diagnosis, and I had a surgery done that um, basically alleviated a lot of the symptoms that I was experiencing, or lessened them, I would say. That was so after that, I pretty much, you know, I kind of was starting to see things differently because once I recovered from that surgery, I started to see, the effects that, like, oh, I don't notice these symptoms as much anymore, and I started to have a much more positive outlook. Like, oh, you know what, I can get through this, and I started to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I started to see it, and that really changed my outlook. Like, I started to become a lot more positive, and towards it was actually while I was on terminal leave. So there's that, and then, like, I landed this job that I have now. Fantastic. I'm get paid well to live in Europe with my family, and work here. It's amazing. So, I started to really get a positive outlook. And it was while I was on terminal leave after I started this job, but before I moved to over here to Europe permanently. Uh, I I had what I would say is both a breakthrough and a spiritual awakening. And that really helped shift my mindset. Like, I hear the term paradigm shift, mindset shift. Basically just um, and it's more than the mind. It's like the soul. Like, it I believe that life is really just a journey and a cycle of just discovering yourself and rediscovering yourself all over again, every time you enter a new phase of life.
Hmm.
And with me getting, like, post surgery, me, like, starting to get over these symptoms and then landing this job and just, you know, uh, getting the medical retirement and transitioning out of the army. And it was just it was more than a transition. It was a transformation. But it was on a deep, I'd say spiritual level, very, very deep personal spiritual level. And I hear of other, transitioning or transitioned service members, veterans that have had a very similar experience, including people you've had on your show.
Sure.
It seems to be a common theme for,
Yeah.
around that time when you transition out. It's like be ready for it. If you're still in, like you're gonna have not just a transition, you're gonna have a whole transformation. And I'm sure it looks different for everyone, but for me, it came pretty rapidly.
Yeah. And you're right. There a lot of people have had similar experiences, and so for folks who are listening to this and you're still in, at some point you're not going to be in. You're going to be getting out, and just be prepared for that because that that soldier or sailor, marine or airman, or whatever your title is, that whatever you are uh, in the military right now, you're not going to be that forever. At some point, you're getting out. And I know, okay, fine. Maybe the Marines are an exception because once a Marine, always a Marine, blah, 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 whatever. I get it. But, um, you're going to get out and you're not going to be wearing that uniform every day. You're not going to be going to work doing that military job. You're going to have something else. And that's going to be your identity. Get ready for that. Be prepared so that when that day comes, when you take that uniform off for the last time, you get handed your DD 214, you're not like, wait a minute, now what am I? Who is this person that I'm looking at in the mirror? Uh, you know, where is my identity? Your identity is you. It's not the uniform that you put on. It's not the title that you have or the job or the, you know, any of that kind of stuff. It's you. That's your identity. And yeah, sure, the military is a big part of it, especially if you're in right now, and even if you've been out for a few years, military is probably a big chunk of your life, and that's you know not taking anything away from that, but that's just one experience that you've had throughout your lifetime. There's a lot of other experiences that you've had, and those are part of who you are too. And so kind of getting that mindset right before getting out probably helps, right? And making that transition or transformation in your case, what you called it, making that a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And what you mentioned about like, like finding yourself, like that's how it was for me. It's like I had kind of lost a part of myself. Um, not completely, but it's like I felt like I lost part of myself and I was having to rediscover parts of myself that
Yeah.
used to be a lot more positive and used to be a lot more, I don't know, fulfilled, you know, either earlier in my army career or before my army career that I just kind of, you know, um, in some cases, like I'll use the analogy. It's like I started pouring from an empty cup, or I
Yeah.
tried to pour from an empty cup, and I think that's part of. I think that's all part of it. Like you have to pour into yourself, and that's how you lose parts of yourself. Is if you're not pouring into those parts of yourself. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and it sounded like,
like
when you had that surgery and those physical symptoms started to get better, and that started to help the mental side of things, and you had a couple of those, I don't wanna say small wins, you had a couple wins, where now things are starting to look up for you, and you you can kind of see the light at the end of that dark tunnel that you were going through. It's like, okay, there is some good stuff here. I'm already starting to see some of that good stuff. With the physical symptoms starting to become a little bit better, and that helps the mental side of things. So you mentioned the anxiety over some of the physical things that you were having going on. If you don't have the physical things, and then that anxiety gets a little bit better, and so it all kind of plays together. And everyone's situation obviously is going to be a little bit different, but if you can take that idea, that concept of, you know focus on one win, try to just improve that one area of your life. Maybe it's a physical problem that you're having. Get that get that physical condition checked out and get it under control. Um, Boom, now you got a win, and that's going to help you. Okay, let's find that next win, and what's that next thing I can improve and focus on. Maybe it's health related, maybe it's career related, maybe it's education, maybe it's whatever it is. um look for that little win that can help show you that there is a light out there. And once when you start getting
Yes.
those wins, that light starts getting brighter and brighter and brighter until eventually you're through that tunnel, and you get to that other side, and you start seeing a whole lot more light, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there were wins, and I call them answered prayers.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, just to for everything to sort of fall into place. I mean, after such a long struggle, for everything just to sort of fall into place, just one after another. It was like, surgery, and then like, oh, symptoms are starting to go away, and then like, oh, now it's medical retirement that's awarded, and then like the job, it's like, um, and then even like, uh, on a personal level, like just the people in my life, just throughout that whole transition, because I've transformed, the people in my life, are transforming. And that goes back into the, can't pour from an empty cup,
Sure.
because now my cup is a lot more full, and now it can actually help others and pour into others, and make their lives better, while maintaining my own cup. But
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times when you use the analogy of pouring into, other people's cups, a lot of times when you're pouring into somebody else's cup, uh, it has a strange side effect of also, filling up your cup a little bit as well, because
absolutely.
you're helping other people, and that just just has a way of helping you too, and it's not a selfish thing like, "Oh, I'm gonna go help some other people so I can get better myself," right? It's it's you're helping somebody else, they're getting that benefit, and maybe that's the small win that they needed, is just to see that somebody else gives a damn about them, and they get that benefit, but you get the benefit too, because helping people just in general, it makes you feel good. I mean, think about just the slightest, smallest interaction you might have with somebody. Um, Somebody, drops their change at the store and you help them pick it up or something like that. Um, it's just a small little thing and you help them out, and but you kind of feel a little bit good about that, like that you were able to help that person out, or you hold the door for somebody, or who's carrying like a bunch of boxes or something like that. It just in a way, it just makes you feel a little bit good that you're able to help somebody. Now, think about if you were to do something, on a significant level where it's transformative, maybe for them, or life changing in some way, where you're able to help them in a significant way. Maybe you're providing them with career counseling, or you're getting them to get the help that they need, mental health wise, or whatever. Like, that's got to make you feel pretty damn good too, right? And so, um,
Absolutely.
so you're helping that person, but you're also helping yourself a little bit too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that maybe something I could have done a little bit better, because you're absolutely right. Like, you get something out of helping others. Um, and whenever you're in survival mode, it's hard to focus on helping others. Like, ideally you get out of survival mode, get past that, and then help. But, I'm thinking like, I was in survival mode for a long time. I was just trying to survive, concentrate on myself mainly. And, had I maybe been a little bit more helpful to others, like maybe that would have, I don't know, at least at a minimum been a good distraction, from the
Sure.
from the pain and discomfort I was experiencing.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. The being a bit of a distraction, because when you have um, somebody else who maybe is relying on you for whatever it is that you're helping them out with, you don't want to let that person down. You want that person to succeed and thrive and do good, in whatever the situation is. So um, you kind of like, all right, well, the hell with these issues that I'm dealing with. They're nothing compared to what these people are going through. I'm gonna focus on this instead. And those other issues, a lot of times they're not. I don't want to minimize these issues, right? But I don't want to say that they're insignificant or whatever. I want, but a lot of times we focus on things that really we don't need to focus on. And uh, we can be okay with these things that are going on, and they're not as big as we make them out to be. But sometimes in our head, we blow things up into these huge things, and it becomes a big thing where we're now having physical or mental health conditions due to all of this. But if we're focused on helping somebody else, some of those things kind of start to get a little bit smaller in our heads,
Yeah.
and
You give
they're
it less energy.
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah, the more energy you give it, it's like uh, feeding the beast, and that beast just gets bigger and bigger, right?
yep. They say whatever you give energy to grows. So, if you
Yeah,
give it less energy or no energy at all, then it'll naturally shrink and go away.
exactly. Yeah, and it sounds like faith and that had uh, some bearing on your journey and how you kind of proceeded through everything. Is that kind of accurate? Like that you kind of leaned on that a bit to help get through where you're going through?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always been, you know, faithful. But I've definitely entered a whole new level of faith, spirituality, and consciousness. You know, emerging from that tunnel and back into the light is how I would describe it. Uh, just because just like like I was describing with the uh, or like you were saying with us guys, like we need to see proof that it's working. Well, like I had a lot of proof, like, all at once that my prayers are being answered, like, it works.
Yeah,
So, and that only just opened up the door to become more faithful, more spiritual, more conscious.
sure. Yeah. And there's a song, and I'm gonna butcher the lyrics, so I'm not even gonna bother. But kind of the gist of it is, like, yeah, if you only pray when you need something, like when you need to ask a favor, are you really that faithful? If you should kind of have that in your life, that faith, knowing that uh, there's a reason for everything that happens, and knowing that your prayers will be answered if if you're praying, right? But um it's an important piece to know that you're not going through this alone. Even if you don't have a friend in the world, you're not going through this all alone, right? There's somebody's got your back, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, and I think for the folks who maybe don't really subscribe to any particular religion or whatever, you know, honestly, that's probably okay. Um, you can still have faith, knowing that there's something bigger out there that will help you, get through whatever it is that you're going through, um, so long as you have that faith, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you 100% there's something bigger out there. I call him God. Some
Yeah,
people call it the universe. But there's definitely a larger entity out there that is moving things, that doing work that we cannot see, in a different realm, different dimension.
yeah,
I've experienced it myself. Like I said, just like I after going through all the struggle, and I knew, like, there's a reason for it. Like, and that's kind of like I already had that faith. Like, I know, like, there's a reason for this. And ultimately it was to make me uh and I'm still trying, kind of figuring it out, but I'm 100% a better person now than before I went through that struggle. And it has only got me closer to God, closer to my faith.
hmm
It's raised my level of consciousness. And so there's is was definitely for a purpose. And then I mean, I'm I am much more happy now uh, than I think I ever was for uh, in the army. So,
Yeah.
on the outside. So I mean, there's that. So
Yeah. Well,
otherwise, I'd still be in nugging away.
right, right, exactly, and, I think a lot of people find a little bit more happiness once when they're out of the military, because their time is up and they maybe had some toxic issues and they just wanted to get out. And in your case, that was very very much the case where the toxicity was not contributing in a positive way to your mental health. So getting out, obviously, you're gonna probably find a little bit more happiness when you don't have to deal with that. Um,
Absolutely.
but you could have also found yourself in a civilian job with similar toxic behaviors, going on, in the leadership there, and you would have, uh, you know, been probably equally as miserable in that position. However, unlike in the army, you had the option of getting out and finding another job. Where the army, it's like, well, hey, this is where you're assigned. This is where this is where you got to
Yep.
be, and you don't really have a too much choice in all of that matters. So, so um, that's a bit of a difference. So at least you had that possibility of an out, but fortunately you found a good job where you don't have those issues. But going back to the faith um, uh, topic just for a minute here, if I could share a little bit of a personal story on my side. So my brother was killed in action in Afghanistan. I was also in Afghanistan at the same time. We weren't stationed together, but we were both in the country at the same time. And I found out he was killed, and I was, taken back to the rear, and I was in the shower because I was on a mission. I was covered in mud and sweat and everything. I was filthy, so I was taking a shower, and I remember standing there. I'm all alone in this latrine in the showers, and I remember just yelling out, why him, why him?" And it wasn't like expecting an answer. I was just yelling out. Um, but I in a way, I was kinda talking to God, and I at one point, after just yelling out like that, uh, I had this strange sense of calm come over me, and this was just a matter of maybe a couple hours after finding out that he was killed. So, having a sense of calm come over you at that point in time is kind of rare, and I just got a sense that everything happens for a reason, and you don't have to know what that reason is. You just have to be okay with that. Just be okay with everything happens for a reason, and God's plan is good. Whatever that plan happens to be, it is good. You may not like it right now, but it'll work out in the end, and it will be good, in the long run. And it was the strangest sense of calm that I've ever felt. Um, and I really do believe that it was God answering my question, like why, why him? Um, and that to me, like you said, just kinda enhance my faith, knowing that there are answers out there. You just have to know, like, what questions to ask and,
Yeah.
be able to, put those prayers out there out there to God, into the universe, if you will, if you're not a, religious type person, but, put those questions out there and they'll be answered.
Wow.
Yeah. So, um, so yeah, so, I wanna kinda just take it back a bit here and talk to you about maybe some of the advice that you might offer to other folks who might be going through similar situations, might be having similar struggles. What would you say to them as far as uh, maybe the number one thing to get started getting through whatever it is that they may be going through? What would you say is like this? You got to have this so all the other pieces can kind of fall into place.
Well, when it comes to getting through stuff, uh, there's one thing that comes to mind is the Winston Churchill quote. If you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah, I like that.
Don't stop in hell.
Yeah.
Go through
Yeah.
hell so you can get beyond it.
It's like, why the hell would you
Um,
stop there?
if you find yeah, if you find yourself in a pitch black tunnel of misery, stress, anxiety, depression, sadness, the best thing you can do is just keep going. Eventually, you will emerge, and when you do, you'll be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think with that mindset, just apply it to the military, right? If you're in a crappy situation, you're pinned down, enemies taking fire at or shooting at you, and you're taking fire, and um, you know, you're in hell at that point. Like that's a terrible place to be. You don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay there where the enemy's got the high ground and they're shooting at you and everything. You want to maneuver. You want to get yourself out of that situation and flank their position. Whatever you got to do to get yourself out of that situation. Uh, you do it and you move and you continue to uh, do something to push through so that you're not stuck in that position. You don't want to stay in hell. You want to get through to get to the other side. Hell is a terrible place to be. So keep going. Keep moving until you get yourself out of there. And that's again, you're gonna try a bunch of things. Like you said, you tried CBT, and that worked for you, and that's great. May not work for some other people. May not be the right thing for them. Maybe they're not in the right place, mentally. They don't have that mindset that you had going into it. But when they go into it, they may try it. That may not work. Maybe medication is the right thing for them because in some cases you might need something to kind of maybe take that edge off so you can go through some of the therapies that are offered. There's a bunch of others, other types of therapies that may be more appropriate for a certain person, depending on whatever it was that they're going through. But no matter what it is that you're going through, try something, do something, because just sitting there waiting for it to go away on its own, it's not going to. Uh, do something so you can get yourself through that. I think that's the takeaway from what you're saying, right?
And it's very easy to just blame everything and not take responsibility and not and it's like you can't. I had nothing I could have done or not done would have probably prevented these symptoms from occurring that I experienced, but they were there. I had to learn to accept it, and then I had to drive on, with the
Yeah.
with reality. So, um, it yeah, definitely like you got to do something. You got to do something for yourself, and it's not selfish. Like there's this is the thing there there is a healthy level of selfishness that, in my opinion, you should maintain. And I don't know if you are familiar with Scott Adams, the Dilbert comic
Yes.
guy, but he has a book called what's it called? How to win it or how to fail at almost everything but still win big. And in there, he talks about there's three types of people in the world. You're either selfish, or you're stupid, or you're a burden on others. And you're one of those three. Well, you don't want to be stupid, so you're stupid if you don't prioritize yourself, you don't take your health seriously, you don't take your finances seriously, and then eventually, if you're stupid, you're going to fall into the category of becoming a burden on others.
Mm,
Whether it be using other people's tax dollars because you failed to plan for your retirement or whatever, or you didn't maintain your health, you didn't take care of your health, so like other people have to
sure.
caretakers have to take care of you, something like that. So, there's a healthy, and he says in this chapter where he mentions this in that book that I mentioned is he's not talking about like the narcissistic type of selfishness. It's not the unhealthy type of selfishness. It's just the selfishness of prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your health, prioritizing your, um, you know, filling your cup so that you can pour into others.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like you have to do something. No one else is going to own it except for you. No one is going to. care as much as you about yourself. So you really have to own it. Don't play a victim.
Yeah.
You have to just accept it, drive on, and it that just maintain that healthy level of selfishness.
Yeah, and it's the, put your mask on the airplane, put your mask on first before helping others. It's that kinda mindset, right? Where if you don't put your mask on first and you're helping somebody else, you're gonna end up passing out, and then you're not gonna be any good to that other person. So put your mask on I actually had to explain this to my daughter, just the other day. She was we were on a flight, and she said, "Well, that seems awfully selfish," when they were talking about that. And I said, "Well,
Mhm.
is it really?" And I kind of challenged her on that. And I said, think about it. If I don't put my mask on first and I'm helping you and you're panicking and you're struggling and I end up passing out, how much good am I going to be to you?" And she goes, "Well, you're not going to be any good to me." And I go, "And you're still going to be panicking, you're still going to be struggling with the thing. And you're gonna end up passing out too. So now we got 2 people who are passed out, and we're both not gonna be any good to each other now." So I said, "But if I put my mask on first, even if you were panicking and struggling and you ended up passing out, at least it would be easier for me to put your mask on for you so I can prop you back up, right?" And you might be a
Yeah.
rag doll at that point, but, at least I can help you at that point, and eventually you come back too. But, I had to kind of explain that to her, but that's kind of what we're talking about here is you do have to prioritize yourself, your physical health, your mental health, your career, your finances, all those things. You kind of have to do some prioritization with that. Not saying that you need to let these things control every aspect of your life and forget everybody else, but take a look at that and say, "Hey, I'm starting to get a little out of shape, and maybe I need to do something to get back into shape so I can be healthy, so I don't become a burden on other people, where I require a caretaker and I require, you know, all this you know, advanced medical procedures and all these other things where I don't need all of that stuff because I've taken care of myself." And that I think is just kind of a smart way to look at life. And they even train that in the military. If you're in a combat situation and somebody gets hit, you don't rush out to go help that person as much as you might want to. And it may seem selfish to not do that, but you take care of the enemy first. You go and neutralize the threat
Mhm.
first before you go rush out and go help that person, because otherwise you're going to become a casualty too, and that's not a good situation
And
for
then now
either
you're a
person.
burden on others for other people to go,
There it is. Yeah.
rescue
So
you, take care of you.
exactly. So you don't want any of that to happen. Um, so great message there. I think that's a great takeaway is um, you know yeah, definitely prioritize your own mental health, your own physical health, your own well-being, because nobody else is going to do it for you until you get to that point where you become a burden. They kind of have to, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I think that's to me the takeaway for folks here who might be in that situation where uh, they're struggling. Maybe it's a physical, maybe it's a mental health situation. Um, "Oh, I'll be fine. Guys, we do this all the time. I'll be fine. I can suck it up. I can deal with it. I don't need to go talk to I don't need no doctors. I don't need any of this kind of stuff," right? That kind of attitude um, only makes things worse in the long run. Yeah, sure. Maybe today you can get by without going to see the doctor. Maybe tomorrow, maybe even next week, you'll be fine without seeing the doctor. Got it. But where are you going to be a year from now, or 2 years, or 5 years from now, if you don't go and get these whatever the condition is, you don't get that checked out? Where are you going to be? Um, because you can only be fine for so long before that starts uh, kind of eating away at you and getting worse and worse and worse. Or maybe you're using other parts of your body to compensate for whatever is going on another part of your body, and that those parts of your body start getting worse, and now you got two problems instead of just the one, um, and and that just makes things so much worse. So so yes, absolutely. I think that's a great message that you kind of offered there for folks. Um, so before we wrap this episode up, um, first off, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us and sharing your story. And if you have any other thoughts or words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share, please by all means don't. I don't want to cut it off before you have a chance to sharing any of those. Um, but I'd love to first off, thank you for taking the time to join us and give you that opportunity to share any other thoughts that you might have here before we wrap up.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. The only thing that I want to add is, so like I said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Uh, get that, get to that light at the end of the tunnel, emerge into the side, and I just want to say we all go through trials to make us better people, and when we are better people, that's when we can help others become better people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like we were saying before, when you help other people, that also helps you. And so these things all go hand in hand, and they help everybody come together and everybody get better. It's no use in bringing other people down uh, just because you're down.
Mhm.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So being able to help people um, brings you up, brings them up, and hopefully that will give them a platform that they can then help other people and bring those people up and make everybody better in your lives, right? So, great message there. Um, Again, before we wrap up, I want to kind of end the show with a little bit of humor. We sometimes get a little dark in some of these episodes, and um, ending having something to look forward to, a little bit of humor at the end, I think is always a good thing. So whenever I have another veteran on the show, I love doing this segment. I call it "Is It Service Connected," and it's kind of a twist on America's Funniest Home Videos kind of thing. It's a military edition. We watch service members uh, doing something stupid and crashing and burning and all the fun things, but we can laugh at it because they don't get too seriously injured usually in these things. So um, I think we one thing we can do um, as service members, as veterans, is we can laugh at each other pretty well. It's usually a good time. So I'm gonna get this video pulled up here so you can uh, share in the humor and the laughter here, so you can see it. Um, but right now, for the audio listeners, I'll try to describe what's going on. Looks like we got a soldier standing. Looks like maybe on a second floor kind of platform. Got a little bit of railing situation. A bunch of I don't know what's on the floor, mattresses maybe or bags or something on the floor below, down on the ground level. Um, Looks like a huge pile of them, and we're gonna
This
see.
already looks like
This looks like a bad I the good idea fairy came around and was like, "Hey, this will work out just fine." But it's
yeah.
no, this actually looks like a terrible idea. Whatever it is, whatever's about to happen, I don't even know, but it looks like a terrible idea. So let me hit play here real quick, and we'll take a look at what the good idea fairy has brought for us today. All right, so we got a soldier. He's backing up. Oh, hold my cover. Right, that's
Oh, jeez. Hold my
and
beer.
yeah, he does a backflip over the balcony into what looks like a bunch of mattresses and like pillows maybe or foam or whatever. And he stands up.
They gotta be paratroopers.
Yeah, probably. He stands up looking all triumphant afterwards. Um, like like he just won the Olympics or he got a gold
Yeah.
medal or something. I don't know, man. That was he did so second floor balcony thing. He did a backflip over the railing, landed. It looked like he landed on his back in this pile of you know mattresses or whatever. He looked
Yeah.
to be fine when he stood up. He looked just fine. He had his arms up. He was ready to go. Maybe that was just the adrenaline uh, but didn't look like he was too injured. So I'm gonna go with there's no service connection there.
Yeah,
I
no
don't think
service
he.
connection. He was fine.
Yeah, first off, I think he was fine, and second off, um, I think that was his own dumbass fault for
Oh,
doing
yeah,
that.
that
If
was
you
with
know,
that many mattresses or whatever those were, I mean, that was, 100% intentional and, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah.
that's, that actually did kinda look fun, but no, I'm past that.
Yeah, I'm too old for that at this point. I think that soldier looked a hell of a lot younger than I am, and in much better
Yeah,
physical condition. So he had no problem doing. I don't think I've ever done a backflip like that in my life. So I don't care how old I was. So I don't think I would be doing that ever. I probably would have gone over the railing and started the backflip, but ended up doing like head first like an Olympic diver into the mattress, broken my neck or something stupid like that. So, yeah,
I
definitely
probably
that
would've
was
twisted my ankle on the rail.
yeah, 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 that's true. If I even got over the rail, that's being generous, I guess. So, um, anyways, Josh, thank you again for taking the time to join us. I do appreciate your words of wisdom, and you sharing your story and the journey that you went through. Um, and hopefully there's some folks out there who have heard your message, know that guess what, you're not alone. There are other people out there who've been through what you've gone through. There are people out there who can help you. uh, with the right mindset you can get that help too. And I think you'll turn out better out in the end, just like Josh did here. Um, and 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 have a happy ending to the story. So thank you
It's been a
again,
pleasure,
Josh.
Scott. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.